Okay, we are ready. Thank you. So, personalization is a funny topic. It kept me busy for a year, maybe, or us busy, the team. So, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Philipp Barfuss. I'm at Magnolia for 10 years. So, actually, we're already working on the product when we were just the four of us, Pascal and Boris including, actually. And so finally, you know, we have a new Chief Visionary Officer. That makes me now the Chief Technical Officer. It mainly means that I'm leading the product development. So not much changed in that regard. But anyway, that's me. You can chat to me in the breaks. So it's very nice for me to present Magnolia 5.3 and why. The thing is, we released a year ago 5.0, and it was the platform, it was the basic, the fundament, if you want. And then first we had to stabilize, and we had to catch up. Maybe you remember we had to bring the enterprise modules first. So workflow was not yet released when we had the base platform. Afterward, there were many features or modules which existed in 4.5, and some customers were depending on it, so we added more and more. So we needed to catch up. This took us till now, and only slowly we were able to ramp up the new feature development. And one of the idea behind Magnolia 5 was always to open the doors that we are able to innovate, that we can quickly make new features, and that's also why we were able now to do the personalization in quite a short time. So we started mid-March. Yeah, so now we are here, and this is the first set of new features I can present with Magnolia 5.3, and that makes me proud, and I think that's the important thing from now on. It's super green, and we can do much more, and if we are not running out of time, I can also quickly talk about this later. So, yeah, I heard that for quite a while. When I first heard about web experience management, I thought, yeah, yet another buzzword. We already have dynamic components. And so on. So it went on, but at some point, so we make regularly a so-called conclave where the management goes for 2 days somewhere and things and drinks, and while there, it was so obvious that the next thing we need is personalization, somehow, the topic personalization, that, yeah, we didn't need to talk further about other features, so the focus was clear. Once 5 is running, personalization has to come. But, well, that's, yeah, that was the start, so I got the task. So you know, the Chief Visionary Officer has a vision, and then me and the team, we have a task. So it was quite a journey. Why is it a journey? Because what is personalization? Yeah, normally if you talk, you go quickly to Wikipedia and see the definition. That wasn't enough for us. So I quickly want to walk through what we have done, how we came there. That also explains why we think what we ship now are the most important features, the fundament for the future. First, you need to understand the topic. We talked to different people. So we talked to partners, to the marketing, and marketing mainly wanted this, that based on whatever you do on the website, the click path, you get different content. When you talk to sales, they say, the only thing we need is this thing like Amazon. If you have a product, you show other products. And technically, we're saying, yeah, it's all easy. You have requests and some parameters, and you need to react, and we need to make some technical framework that you can plug in, and that's it. So, and we were talking and talking and talking. And so basically, it's super basic, but that's a brochure website. That's what we had for a very long time. Now it's more the targeting. If you talk about personalization now in context of Magnolia, the new features are mainly about the targeting. You have group of people, you have content you want to direct to some segments. And you have the more individual. Here it's more the salesman, really direct communication. And that's what you would do with the classical things like with dynamic components. So what the features we added are actually more in the middle. And personalization, there are two basic kind of personalization. One is the explicit personalization, so you know based on what you personalize. So this is normally you have something in the user profile, you have this information, you have access to a social profile, you have this explicit data. There is the other kind of personalization. That's more what marketing is talking about, is implicit personalization. Here, based on the current visitor, so you don't know much about the person, but you try to analyze what the person is doing. Geolocation is a good example. Or a good example, easy example, is the device or the date and time. On a certain date, you want to have a different information online. There is a big subclass of this implicit personalization, which is the behavior analysis. That's where you follow the user's journey, and based on that, you show different content. If he reads more technical article, you show technical articles. If he looks at phones, you show other phones. That's, to some degree, this Amazon example. We had billions of things we could do, and only 3 months' time. And it took us really 3 sessions with post-its to say what is more important, what is how easy to implement. First, then we realized again, oh, we have to redefine the features, we mean something else, and so on. So in the end, that's what we try to do when we craft solutions. It should be flexible, so you should be able to add, to plug in. So that's actually, Magnolia is to some degree also a platform, and you do a lot in the projects. So you should do that, be able to do that in an efficient way. And what we ship out of the box should have some simplicity. It should be usable for 80% of the use cases. So the out-of-the-box solution should be not too complex, because that's not good for the majority of the users. Exactly, but it should still fulfill this 80% in a nice way. So we went to have defined stories about personalization and content pools. Here are some example stories. It's not that we have implemented all these stories now, but this is what guides us through this process. 5.3 is a release. It's not the end of the world. But I will talk here about, for instance, the first story, so that we have special alternatives of homepage. We also have support for that you can know that the user is registered on your site or not, for instance. That's all on the wiki. And finally, we went, our UX designer was making the storyboards with nice ideas, and yeah. I think it's actually a very good book. Read it if you are interested in how you can make easy-to-use, simple solutions. It has good things, one of which is very clear after working with this topic, simplicity, is the thing is you have to understand it first, because there is a borderline between something which is too simplistic and simplicity. And so that's why it's so difficult and time-consuming to make something which is really gives you the value of simplicity. And here we were then extracting from these stories. We have extracted 4 tools where we think if we provide these 4 tools, then you can do your personalization. And this here is the reality. In this process, we also developed improved our Scrum approach. We call it taking the train, where we on a weekly basis, every Friday at 4 o'clock, a release leaves, and this is the milestone. And people need to come with their implementation and stories and try to get the train ticket. If it's not good enough, they are not able to go on the train. And this helped us a lot to focus on these stories, on this big topic where we can do so many things, but we were week by week picking where we thought that's the biggest value for this week, and once it was stable, we shipped it. So we were moving slowly forward to our vision, and that's when we also decided to focus first on the pages. That's where we think you need personalization first. And also based on the interviews, we realized what is very important is the preview. If you have personalization but no preview, then it has little value. Or at least there, I think we also had the feeling we can do better than others. So finally we catch the train. And I would like to go through these 4 tools so that you know what we provide you. First tool, traits. That's the fundament. That's really, without having the traits, these are the parameters if you want. It's just the name which fits better, the personalization. Without the traits, there is no personalization. Traits can be many things, age, language here, that's actually from the documentation, which is also ready. And this is the first tool of 4. So the thing is, out of the box, we ship 3 traits. That's our, let's say, the basic sample we ship now with 5.3. Very simple, the date, geolocation with the countries, regions, or whatever you want to do with the geolocation. And visitors, whether you're a registered visitor, a new visitor, if you were already on this homepage or not, this information, if you are logged in or not logged in. These are 3 examples, and we made it so that you can plug in your own traits. Not only that you can plug in your own traits technically to get the parameter, but also the UI that the business user can define the segments, for instance, or use it in the preview. And later we hope that we have some deeper integrations in some professional personalization engines where we have traits available. If you have nice traits, feel free to publish them on the App Finder. That's actually what we are hoping for. All these traits, it has nothing to do whether they're explicit, implicit. Explicit, implicit means just how you are getting the parameters. In the end, both are traits. That's the documentation where you, or the start of the documentation, where you can go and see how you can build your own trait, what you need to do. First tool, traits. Now, second tool, you want to have variations of content variants. How this works, I best show you in a short demo. I pre-recorded these videos, but I used the original 5.3, so they work. And yeah, so here I go to the Pages app. That's where we focused on. I go to the home page. And here you see I made here a hello world. That's the original, that's for everybody. Now we go back and add a variant. So you can add variants to any page you want. You have this variants node. And now we go and define the audience for this variant. Give it also a name. And here in the example, I use the Valentine's Day. So something which doesn't use segments or whatever, it's just a different content on a different day. Here you will have the list of traits you have installed. And you also see we can do much nicer things now in the new UI. So this is nothing fancy, that's just using our dialogues. And yeah, it should also not show after the 15th of February. Good. We go into the editor. You see here you have all variants. That has nothing to do with the preview. That's just the content you are editing. And now we change here our example for the Valentine's Day. Quickly change the title. I hope I don't make a typo. And then we quickly upload an image, which is here. Hey, and we have our Valentine's page, which we will use later. So, we have two tools, traits and content variants. It's definitely the plan to make these variants not only for Pages, because Pages is a content app. We will make this now then available for any kind of content, so that you can also have articles or products which are also having variants or different pricing based on the region or whatever. Anyway, so you can imagine if you have, let's say, 5 traits, 20 authors, and they go and create content variants as crazy. You will have, it's very weird or difficult to say what's happening on your website if a certain person visits or whatever. So you will probably not want that people use the traits directly, except for date maybe, or if there is a special version for a device. But otherwise you will probably want to make a concept how you want to work with your audience. So that's why we have a third tool. These are the segments. Yeah, attention pie chart. It's just how you structure your visitors, and you can combine the traits and the rules which define a segment. Let's also have a quick look at the demo. Does it work? Yeah, so here I have my regions defined. I go to Europe. And, well, very controversial here. Are we part of Europe or not? But I think at least for the geolocation we are. So we add here Switzerland. You can select whether you want to have all or any traits applied. You see here, it's actually what we try to do here, having certain flexibility, but also simplicity. First, with the first concept, we had a very tough rule builder, which we might still have because it's needed, but like based on the time frame and so on, we decided to have this very basic concept. And sorry, it goes further and further. So now you work with the segments, and we quickly make here the page for Europe. That's so that the other parts of my presentation work. So there is nothing surprising here now. And this time the image is already there, and I choose it. Good. Well, okay. So we have 3 tools: traits, content variants, and segments. Now the doctor comes. What you want to do before you publish, or anyway that you feel that the system works okay, it feels you want to control it. It's very important. And the fourth tool we added here are the personas. That's if you are coming from marketing, nothing special. This here is a persona, that's me. Normally you have fake personas where you say, you define some traits, and so you can use them as a standard to verify. So you know like with which segments you work, and you verify with the persona. So you can make sure that your website makes sense and is not just fancy because it's super dynamic. The persona app is again in this target group. Here, that's where you do all this stuff, and most likely marketing defines then for the author these personas. And here, for instance, we have our Swiss girl. And you see here, we have also the trait. She's a registered user, for instance, that how this trait works if you need it. And yeah, that's all for the personas. If you preview, the persona is not enough. It helps you to think conceptually about your content, but there are other things you want to verify. You want to verify in a certain date. Maybe it's not about like where the person lives, but maybe your personalization is about the current location, so this could change. Or I think that's even the more likely case here, you want to see how it looks from a different device. Persona has no device. So that's why we clearly separated this the traits from these additional criteria. And so again, a demo. Now the preview, you can access the preview from different places, but from the normal preview here, you can go and say visit as a visitor. I'm the anonymous user. I can browse now through my website as anonymous user, see the hello world. I can go and toggle between the users. Someone from US, or I can now go and see how this website looks as if I'm a Swiss girl. So we are in Europe. And now I can go and define additional criteria. Like I want to see how does this website look like if I'm on Valentine's Day here, and then I see it. The preview app is independent, you see it here. It has nothing to do, that's now this app concept. So it was not, it was a kind of a coincidence, but we always thought like these apps are good for separating the task. And first we wanted to make this preview into our Pages app. But then we realized there are two things. Visiting as a certain person, if you use the traits in your templates and do more dynamic things, then it's a much different thing than if you edit a page and you have variants of this content and you want to see this content. So now you have the preview in the Pages app where you see what you are editing, this variant, and you have this preview app where you can go and visit as someone. So these are the four things we added, but I was also quickly want to talk about personalization in general. That doesn't mean that this is the only thing you can do with Magnolia. We have online some personalized websites already with our product. So leverage what we have, use content apps for different content snippets or articles or products. Use categorization, for instance, as an additional tool. So define your categories and use them also as segments. We plan to combine this then also with the segments, that you can say which kind of categories fit to a certain segment. So that if you just categorize your articles or news, this will also work with the same concept. And you have the dynamic components where you can aggregate any kind of content. You can use the traits, this resolution, this result of all this magic, you can use this in your templates. And there is another tool we added, not especially for personalization, but you can use it in this context very nicely. So the marketing tags is also a new feature in 5.3. It's nothing magic, but I think it's an example where it shows like a simple app which you can write in a few days, or can help you to do a lot of things or give you business user more power. Many of these services, there are zillions of services you want to use, and marketing sometimes want to use them immediately. At least that's the case in our company. They have about 20 services they use. So they want to manage these scripts. Now, not everybody should be able to manage these scripts, and that's why we said, okay, let's put that in a different app. And here you see it. It's actually under tools, so you can give permissions for someone. Here I use the clicky example. It's another service like Google Analytics where you see in real time who's clicking where. I can then just copy paste the script. That's what these services normally provide you. And you can say whether it's executed on author or only on public. You can say where it should be added in your template. You can have a dashboard so that you don't need to go to this service to quickly verify what you're using. And you can say where it's used, and you can also say whether it's used in the hierarchy or just for a certain page. It's something very simple, but it shows how you can use these content apps to add value. And here you can now go to this dashboard. It opens this link here in Magnolia, and you can quickly verify. Now, we are mainly a technical audience. That's why you, anyway, already, like probably 10 minutes before, wanted to ask about the performance. On performance, yeah. We know we can do more. What you need to do today, if you use personalization, if you make your concept, you have to optimize the cache. There is content on the wiki, and we will add more where you, and I will quickly explain for which cases you do what. So you can adapt the cache key. So we have the page level caching. If you know you use certain traits and you segment based on this, it's very easy to add something to the cache key so that you have your version based on this. You can change the cache policy. We change it when you install personalization, and it's very simple. It doesn't cache if there are variations. And it also depends on the templates. Normally the rendering is quite fast. And what you can also do is have another cache filter, a late cache filter where you have more information. Our cache is quite early, so when you are not yet accessing the repository, but you can have actually another cache filter later in the filter chain before the rendering where you have all this information and can access. So you can have a late cache, so an early cache, late cache. That's what these things we will add now, so that this is then out of the box, but these are the things you can do in your project. It's anyway always a good idea to think about it. It's very important to, sometimes I hear, the only thing you need is snippet caching, but the question is, what is slow? It's obviously nice to have snippet caching if just the username changes or something like that. On the other hand, let's say if the heavy component is the one which is anyway dynamic, it doesn't mean anything whether the rest renders in 20 or 80 milliseconds. So the concept we are following now, I call it here PostCaching. I don't know if this our architects will probably name it differently, and marketing anyway. It's just to explain what we mean. It's nothing new. It's also what you can use already today. I will show you later. What we plan to do is actually still cache the pages, but then have dynamic slots in there. So in your component, you will define that this is a dynamic one. And what it will cache is actually this information that there is something dynamic. When it serves it from the cache, it will serve all the navigation and things you were able to cache, and then it will just call the rendering for the components which are dynamic. Rather than going through the rendering and having different snippets which are cached, we will kind of have a template and include it. This is nothing new. That's actually what the edge side includes do. And that's also what I recommend if you have projects now and you know you have a problem in this context, then you can combine your Apache with Varnish, and Varnish will actually do this for you. So the first result renders just the information for this edge side includes, and when it serves then the HTML, then it goes and calls Magnolia for these parts which are really dynamic. Adding Varnish is anyway a good idea. Someone told me that even by default, with the default installation, you can get up to 20% of performance gain. So, but we learned, it's a good takeaway. When we talked about personalization, more and more it became clear what you need to do if you have a personalization project. It's not necessary that you need a tool where you can go and record requests and agents and other things you can do and add and define 100 segments, and that's for good sales demos and playing around. But what you need to do, I think, in the project, similar to the information architecture, you need an architecture for this. What do you really want to do? Do you need more than 2 segments? So I know company, they meet regularly, I think even weekly, to see what they can do with personalization for their website. It's a big brand and they are not yet sure what they should do. So just because the feature is there doesn't mean like it's easy. All in all, we have these 4 tools, the things we already have, and the marketing tag. So combine this to make your personalized web experience something. So that's what we have. Next is definitely caching. Caching is, we committed for the caching for 5.4. That's more or less given. More traits. These 3 traits are nice for a very first release. We will definitely have more traits out of the box. And I think very powerful this becomes to get in combination with content pools. Content pools are, for instance, that in the content app you have articles, you categorize them, and based on this you show and propose these articles for the user. Now we have this tooling, we have all the things we have, we can combine it, and I think there we can make something very powerful. There are more advanced topics: multivariate testing, A/B testing, content inheritance. You have seen these pages, these are copies, so you can change everything. It's very independent. On the other hand, it doesn't, how to say, cascade changes to the subvariant. That's something we might add. Behavior analysis. There are many things we could add. And that's why it's very important to have this conference here. We have now this version. Give us feedback, maybe already now, because you know your projects better. Or when you have done your first projects, contact us. We are very interested to see where we should put our priority. Oop. Yeah, you see us here. This is in Zermatt. We are walking towards the Matterhorn. It's a nice view, and I think we are getting somewhere. Yeah, so let's hope we reach the top. Then we are out of time. I thank you very much. Feel free to come to me, talk to me, and especially important for me now that you have this tooling, if you use it, give feedback. What do you want next? Is it this inheritance? Is it the different caching? Is it A/B testing, out of the box, whatever? Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye.